people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news. Ow!
Okay, we'll start with this. We now know that there's not going to be an immediate rematch between Sandy Ryan and Jessica McCaskill, as both champions are on the hook to satisfy mandatory challengers. Jessica has to fight Croatia's own Ivana Habazin, former champion, and her mandatory challenger, and Sandy Ryan may end up fighting Hungary's own Kinga Magyar.
Ranked at number 1 by way of the WBO.
Kinga Magyar, who sports a professional record of 13 wins with 4 losses, no draws, 6 knockouts, having been knocked out 2 times in 17 professional bouts. It's important to note that every single one of Kinga Magyar's losses happened in the first 2 years of her career. Her career got off to a rather rocky start, and all 4 of those losses happened 2 years into her career. Since then, she's not only rebounded, she's on a hot streak. She's won 12 fights, 12 in a row, albeit against pedestrian-level competition. Kinga only fought once last year in April, and once again in February of this year. It's the only fight that she has had this year, and it looks like she's in a pole position to challenge Sandy Ryan for the WBO title. If by some chance Kinga is unavailable, ranked right behind Kinga at number 2 is Helda Wolmerans
Of South Africa.
Helda sports a professional record of 9 wins with no losses, no draws, 6 knockouts. She fought only once last year, but has already seen action 2 times this year. Once in May, then again this month. Earlier this month, on the 21st, against Happy Dowdy. Kinga Magyar ranked at number 1. Helda Wolmerans ranked at number 2. These are fighters that are flying very low on the radar. A shot at Sandy Ryan would be the biggest fight of either of their careers. Where it gets interesting is when you look at who's at number 3. Olympic gold medalist of Great Britain, Lauren Price, who fights over there on the Sky Sports and Boxer side of things. You have to wonder if Kinga and Hida are unable to fight. Will Lauren Price cross the street? Will she come over to the Matchroom and DAZN side of things for that opportunity? Lauren Price is one of 3 names you have to pay attention to in the WBO's ranked standings. There's Lauren Price, ranked at number 3, and O'Shea Jones, America's own O'Shea Jones, ranked at number 5. Olympic amateur standout O'Shea Jones.
She's got a fight coming up.
Ranked right behind O'Shea Jones at number 6 is the United Kingdom's own Dee Allen, hard-punching Dee Allen, who serviced as a sparring partner for Mary Spencer ahead of Mary's rematch with Femke Hermans. I've seen a lot of Dee Allen, and I like what I see. And these are 3 names you have to pay attention to moving forward into the coming year. Lauren Price, O'Shea Jones, Dee Allen. These would be challenging opponents for Sandy Ryan, who still is WBO champion and is on the hook to satisfy a mandatory challenger.
And it looks like it's going to be Kinga Magyar. She's ranked at number 1.
If the mandatory challenger turns out to be Kinga Magyar or Hida Wolmerans, I imagine those would be relatively easy fights to make. Those fighters are flying low under the radar, and they're not with major promotional outfits. They're going to want to move on that so they can hurry up and get back to the Jessica McCaskill fight, the rematch. And Jessica, of course, she's got to take care of business with Ivana Habazin. I would put a potential rematch between Sandy and Jessica in either the second quarter or third quarter of next year. Late in the second quarter or early in the third. Ideally, that's when you'd want it to happen. Still jarring that what seemed to me to be a very easy fight to score, a fight that Sandy Ryan was winning decisively, turned into the clusterfuck that we're looking at here and now. It's nothing against Jessica McCaskill, but if I'm being honest with you, I think I only gave Jessica something like two, maybe 3 rounds of the 10.
Even with that, she should be able to make it past Ivana Habazin into that Sandy Ryan rematch, which is her best bet at getting a second payday, a decent-sized purse as a champion.
Thus, we have that to look forward to in the coming year.
Crazy times in the world of boxing. Showtime out?
Yeah,
Crazy.
It's
Sad, right?
I see some people like happy about it, but I think it's a sad time for boxing. You know, Showtime has done so much for the sport, and it's just like a missing piece in boxing now. Like we got HBO gone, we got Showtime gone, but I think somebody new is gonna come in. But it's still just Showtime is just like real boxing, you know?
Yes, prestige.
Yeah, exactly.
Imagine 10 years ago telling someone no HBO boxing, no Showtime boxing.
That's like saying the UFC just gone.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And people, it's a lot of haters in boxing. I see people celebrating this. This is crazy. I know some people may not like Steven Espinoza.
But
this is good for you guys to have.
It's even bigger than Steven Espinoza. It's just the Showtime.
Yes.
It's just, my grandpa grew up watching Showtime.
Right.
Our people. Showtime's been around since
Tyson.
I started on Showbox.
Right.
So,
It's not that people are celebrating the death of Showtime boxing, at least I'm not. It's vindication. Vindication for what I've been telling you all along, that things aren't all sunshine and rainbows at Showtime, and if something doesn't change and change quickly, Showtime boxing will go the same way as HBO boxing. Showtime boxing that communicated this message by way of their social media. We will not be moving forward after the end of the year, but we will continue to deliver on our promise to subscribers, our content partners, and the fighters. Until then, we're focused on Benavidez versus Andrade, November 25th on Showtime Boxing.
I'm not reveling in their failures. I'm only telling you, I told you so. For a long time, I was telling you, relaying that information over to some of you who didn't receive it well and chose to lambaste me for telling you.
What was Stefan Espinoza's final word on the matter, for those who missed it? For over 37 years, Showtime Sports has occupied an important position in the sports media ecosystem, delivering premium storytelling, bold and provocative documentaries, and outstanding live production of the biggest combat sports events in history. And we have done it all with the highest standards of care and quality. While last week's news is difficult and disappointing for the remainder of the year, we will continue to deliver the highest quality, industry-leading boxing programming that has established us as the unequivocal #1 destination for the sport worldwide, and to finish what we started this year, perhaps the best year in our history. And that's not the truth. That's not reality. You're not the unequivocal #1, because if you were, you'd still have a broadcast partner.
It's the arrogance of it that gets me, that the success you guys are talking about is from years ago. Let's be honest. You're still talking about the Floyd Mayweather era and what you were doing in the Mayweather era, not this one.
The arrogance of Stefan Espinoza, Al Heyman, and what decisions were made that led them to this point. In my previous videos, I've talked about how Al Heyman's decision to jump into bed with Fox and the cluster of popular fighters that he took over there, it spread the stable too thin. Had those fighters been on Showtime boxing, delivering metrics for Showtime, perhaps we wouldn't be here now.
Getting cozy with Fox, you spread your own stable too thin. Spread your own stable too thin being greedy. And all that did was see two major platforms leaving the sport of boxing when it could have been none.
And it wasn't just spreading the stable too thin, it was putting fights behind a paywall on Fox, more fights behind a paywall on Showtime, content that would have better serviced those broadcast partners as regular fights on the regular channel, so they are that much more accessible to the consumer and draw that many more eyes to those platforms. Consider how many more eyes would they have gotten on Fox if Spence versus Porter weren't a pay-per-view, if it were just on regular Fox.
That Sean Porter unification match could have brought well over 1 million eyes to Fox, but you put a fight behind a paywall that no one was asking for. So when you ask people to pay for it, they don't.
All the while, shortchanging your other broadcast partner, Showtime, who you have a longer-standing relationship with. Content ended up on Fox that could have been on Showtime and would have helped their numbers and their metrics. These kinds of decisions.
That's what saw both Fox and Showtime leaving the sport of boxing.
Showtime Sports President Stefan Espinosa's inability to keep his ducks in order and get these guys in line, that you don't work for the PBC. You yourself, you don't work for Al Heyman. You work with him. And if you work for anyone, it's the Showtime platform. So it's Showtime you were supposed to be looking out for, not them.
Putting fights behind a paywall in order to satisfy the fighters' financial demands without satisfying the platform's demands. The demand to draw eyes to it. Gervonta Davis's fights, if they were on regular Showtime, could have brought in excess of 1 million viewers.
But for the last 3 years, you've been putting him on pay-per-view where most of the time he didn't draw nothing.
Your decisions.
Fans, fanatics, and fanagers, compromised members of the media, journos who are a little bit too partial to everything the PBC was doing, painting an inaccurate picture of how things were really going behind the scenes.
Exaggerating about how well they were doing, their box office numbers, helping them to propagate that smoke in those mirrors.
The soft matchmaking on the regular channel and the decision to put on any and every halfway decent fight behind a paywall.
These are the decisions you guys made. You're not at the door now. You're not at the exit because you did things right.
Contrary to the opinions of a few who want to chalk this all up to a rebrand, Showtime is rebranding themselves and they don't want to be in sports anymore. That's not reality. Reality is PBC got the axe because the numbers were low. It's not just sports they got rid of, it's anything that wasn't bringing in numbers, including television shows and some that were still in production. The bottom line is the PBC failed to deliver.
The numbers were low, so they got rid of them.
So what you then have to ask yourself is, well, why were the numbers low? The matchmaking. The matchmaking wasn't ambitious enough, and it wasn't ambitious enough soon enough. You entered into a new deal with Showtime in 2018, and that deal lasted approximately 5 years. But it wasn't until the 5th and final year that you started putting up good numbers.
What about the other 4 years? What was the biggest fight that you put on last year? Was this a consistent enough effort for the higher-ups at Paramount and Showtime to keep boxing around? And the easy answer is, it wasn't.
You literally ignored your consumer base, consistently putting Gervonta Davis in fights that most of the time people didn't want to see him in. You ignored your customers.
Instead of giving them the kind of fights that they wanted, you tried to convince them that this is what they want. They want to pay for Hector Luis Garcia. They want to pay for Rolly Romero and Isaac Cruz.
Leo Santa Cruz. And apparently, it didn't work. It didn't work with the fans. It didn't work with the higher-ups at Paramount.
And I told you it wouldn't. I told you so.
So in short, the decisions you made couldn't have been the right ones because look at where you are now.
You've been eliminated. You're out of the game.
A fight that everyone is looking forward to and hope it happens. And, you know, I'm doing everything in my power to make it happen, and I'm referring to it as the Anthony Joshua fight. So, Anthony, you're hearing it from my mouth. Here, personally, you know, from the horse's mouth himself. Hey, I'm here, I'm ready to go. I heard some things about what your promoter said that my last fight only lasted a short period of time, that I ain't fought in a year, and he don't know if I want to fight or not. But I'm letting you know right now, right here, I'm ready to fight. I'm ready to get in that ring, man. Let's make this the best time of our lives. This would be a major disaster if we would never be able to get in the ring and put our stamp down in history, bro. You know what I mean? When people would think about classic and great fights, I want them to think about us as well, you know, and being able to do that, we got to get in the ring, you know, and that's just what it's all about. You know, the silliest thing I've heard is people saying that you're not ready, and that's the silliest thing, because I don't believe that. I believe you're ready. I hope you're ready. I think you're ready. So let's make this happen, bro. Me and you. Make the history happen. I'm looking forward to seeing your response, bro. I'll talk to you soon. Love, peace, and God bless.
In my previous segment, detailing Showtime's departure from the sport of boxing and what decisions led them there, the Wilder versus Joshua fight that didn't materialize but could have and should have, that's yet another decision. I feel like Showtime made themselves an obstruction. I feel like Showtime didn't help that situation at all, lying to themselves about Deontay Wilder's economic standing here in America. He was so clearly the B-side to Anthony Joshua, and they could have negotiated a situation where they get the U.S. rights to the fight, and the people at Matchroom, who would have been bankrolling the show, they would have got the rights to the fight everywhere else.
What could have brought massive numbers to the Showtime platform in the last 5 years. This fight had everything. It had it all. 2 unbeaten champions, 2 unbeaten knockout merchants, transatlantic rivals in their prime, both with belts, undisputed. When's the last time there's been an undisputed champion at heavyweight?
Yeah, I feel Showtime dicked up that situation as well. So content with themselves over the paltry success of Wilder versus Fury 1, the only chapter in the trilogy that involved Showtime. The other 2 fights, they involved Fox.
They were so fucking happy with themselves that it sold 325,000 pay-per-view buys. How many more pay-per-view buys would he have sold with Anthony Joshua transatlantically? That would have been one mother of a fight. And I feel that Showtime dicked that up because, for starters, whose idea was it to bring Fury into this anyway?
2018, Fury was nowhere near as popular as Anthony Joshua, not in the UK or the US. So whose idea was it to conjure him up, and whose idea was it to give him a title shot? And whose idea was it after the first fight to reject $100 million from DAZN to go fight Fury again? Whose idea was that?
I saw the whole thing happen. I saw it. And Showtime, at least in part, was a party to all of this because the very first Fury fight was on Showtime.
The truth is that if Stefan Espinoza, Al Heyman, and all the people at the PBC and Showtime would have made themselves more negotiable, more agreeable, this fight could have happened then. And we would have gotten maybe 2, maybe even 3 fights out of this thing. By now, if nothing else, Wilder would have made more money. He admitted that himself.
Whose idea was it for Wilder to take less money to fight Fury when he could have made more money with AJ, win or lose? Whose idea was that?
You ask me why Showtime ended up leaving the sport of boxing? It's the decisions they made, because from the get, Showtime were involved in that first Wilder versus Fury fight. So in many ways, they helped bring Tyson Fury into the picture, which led to Deontay Wilder's downfall. The Joshua fight would have brought far more eyes to their platform than that Fury fight did.
If they would have made themselves more agreeable and easier to work with, it would have been a monumental achievement for them, their boxing content, and their platform. Joshua versus Wilder was always a bigger fight than Wilder versus Fury.
You literally guided this guy away from the Joshua fight, which was a bigger fight, just for him to end up leaving your platform for Fox, because the last 2 Fury fights, they were on Fox and ESPN. They cut you out of the deal.
And now the chickens have finally come home to roost, as they say.
We are all the architects of our own reality. And the decisions you guys made is what led you here to the end of Showtime Boxing.